We got a fan question from Jim Lee, who's one of our good contributors to the show, a Chinese Australian who we went to school with.
Right.
He says, Big Jim, he asks, everyone born outside China starts off as anti-China. At some stage, they move towards a pro-China view. Did you have that experience or change? And he also acknowledges he has no idea what you think.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, everyone sort of wants you to label yourself as either pro or anti-China, and I kind of think of myself as being somewhere in the middle. You know, I think because I am a journalist, when I do approach stories, I try to approach them from a neutral perspective. I don't.
We could do with some of that in Australia.
Well, I don't try to go into it with a conclusion before I've even started to interview, you know, the first person as part of a series or part of a story. I sort of go in with questions and curiosity, and I think that's what I went to China with. You know, I don't think I was ever anti-China. And I don't think that I would say that I'm pro-China either. I'm aware that China has issues, but I'm also, you know, very, I don't know, proud of the fact that China has changed so much over the last 40 years. And over the last decade that I've been in China, I've seen so much change. And the majority of that change has been positive. And a lot of those changes have actually made my life a lot easier in China. So, I mean, it would be weird if you asked somebody whether they were pro or anti-Australia. That just sounds weird. You know, I don't know why people have to either be pro or anti-China. You know, I guess I'm neutral. I'm a guest in China. I follow the laws and regulations in China, and I try to, you know, contribute as much as I can to my host country and my host city. Guangzhou is like my second home now. I feel really at home there, and you know, I think you can do good things wherever you go in the world. For example, I've done a fair bit of charity work in Guangzhou, raising money for underprivileged children in mountainous areas. I also signed up as an anti-drug awareness ambassador for Guangzhou, obviously because in China they have a very low tolerance to narcotics and drugs, and they want to make sure that children from a very young age know that that's something that they should stay away from. So, yeah, I think I'm just me, and I'm just experiencing China for what it is.
That's good. I like that. I like that a lot. What do you think about that?
I think that's a very wholesome view. I think it's a good point he raises when he says not many people ask if you're pro-Australia or anti-Australia. I think that's a good point. Do you think in general there is though a kind of systemic issue in Australian journalism with the way that they treat China from a journalistic perspective?
You know, I think Australian journalists are in a really tough position at the moment. And one of the reasons is because there are no people on the ground in China providing them with information. And also over the years, we've seen a lot of cutbacks at media organizations in Australia. So I think there's really been sort of, you know, when I was growing up and I was young, news was still seen as a service, especially, you know, on commercial television stations. It was a service that they were required to provide to the community in order to maintain their broadcasting licenses. But in recent years, you know, as we've seen this push to digital media and online media, traditional media is really struggling. So I think anything that, grabs attention, anything that can attract eyeballs, honestly, I can't say I blame journalists if they write a negative story about China because they know it's going to get clicks and it's going to reach their quotas, because they're in a tough position. People study for years to become journalists, and people work for years to get those positions and be able to work in the industry. But the fact is, the industry is shrinking, and I think a lot of journalists would be worried about whether or not next year they may or may not have a job. So I think when we talk about the negativity in the media towards China, I think that's an aspect that we don't really hear about a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I talked recently, maybe a couple of months ago, to a Sky News anchor who said that the reason he does anti-China rants is because they rate well, and he was quite candid about that. And think about that as you will, but it obviously reflects some of the things you've been talking about. And I guess the other thing is, it's like maybe in this new digital age, you don't need to go to journalism school anymore. You can make it after going big on YouTube with some Chinese songs, or you can get a camera and have a small and mildly unsuccessful channel like we have.
Well, I mean, that's it. I think it's good, but at the same time, the internet is, it can facilitate some good things. It can also facilitate some very bad things. Lots of misinformation, lots of
fake news
theories. So I think there still is a role for traditional media. I just wish we had more funding in this country to support journalism, so that people, could look at things from more of a nuanced perspective. Because, I still like to watch Australian news when it comes to reporting on local issues. I especially enjoy watching regional news, like on the Win network. So, when I'm in China, I might watch like the Sunshine Coast Win news broadcast, because I feel like those regional news broadcasts, I don't know why, but I just feel like, for me, they're more trustworthy, and it allows me to gain more of a sense of how people are thinking in Australia. Because I don't know, it's just, I guess, so it's not so polarized, because it's focused on local communities in Australia. So I enjoy watching those broadcasts. And a lot of people have asked me recently, like, what's your end game? What are you hoping to do in the future? And I just said, well, I'd love to work one day somewhere like Toowoomba or the Sunshine Coast or Cairns, and just host a local news bulletin. I'd be happy to I'd just be happy to do that, because I enjoy my job. I enjoy what I do. I love the process of making and producing news. I just don't like the political polarization. That's just, unfortunately, that's the worst part of being involved in the China space at the moment.
Yeah, well, back in the day, apparently, this is going to be some bro science or bro news, but that previously the actual news section of newspapers, and even, I believe, TV news, was not profitable, and it was actually subsidized by the entertainment sections in the newspapers and the magazines and on the TV. But what that meant was that the goal of the news segment wasn't actually profitability, but it was more something with a bit of, not wanting to be the armchair critic, but maybe potentially, facts and integrity was potentially more of a priority than it is today. But if you're a business that's losing a bunch of money, I understand why the clicks matter.